I welcome Prashanth HN sir for this podcast. This is where I'm giving myself an humble attempt to understand what should I be as an engineer in the future. Trust me, world is filled with so much of jargons and so much of buzzwords, and I and you don't have the time to really figure out the ways to move around it. And also, industry wants people who can speak of that buzzwords, but I feel instead of speaking buzzwords, I think probably we need to be an engineer who can architect it one day. So today with Prashant, we are just going to demystify the ways in which we can be a future industry ready engineers. And trust me, no stack is so big that your brain can be filled with that only. There is something beyond it also. So let's just demystify that and say to ourselves, let's just architect a solution for the tomorrow's world. So I welcome Prashant sir. Thank you so much for giving this podcast.
Thanks, Vishwas. This is really nice. You are being a student at this point, you are trying to explore, talking to people like me and getting the real world understanding of what exactly things are happening in the industry. It's very important for students, to not get completely sucked into what is taught in college and also explore. I'm not saying, I'm not at all downplaying what is taught in college, but it is very, very important that you also be in tune with what's actually happening in the industry, what's going on in the industry. I think it's very, very important. And I think this series, I went through a YouTube playlist, and this series is really, really amazing. For you to put this up is, I think, helping a lot of other students and student communities to understand what's actually going on in the industry. So kudos for that.
Thank you so
really,
much.
Really happy that you're having me here.
Yeah, let's just understand what was your life as a student, because trust me, I now just crossed this student life, but I'm now preparing for my master's and now just doing all the work that I would love to always be doing. I just want to understand who was the same Prashant as a student, because meanwhile, when we think of our engineering studies, right, we cry on the last day saying that, oh my God, I'm going to miss this life. But when we come to the industry, that's a new ball game, because trust me, like a lot of professionals, meeting all of those professionals and meeting some of the fossils who are like 20, 30 years in the industry has changed my mindset in such a way that this is not what we are required to study in the age that we are being taught engineering, right? So I just want to understand who was the same Prashant during his engineering. And why I'm asking it, it's because a lot of times, that's where we chisel our mindset to just focus on one thing. So I just want to understand who was the same Prashant during his engineering.
Are you okay me being candid?
Yeah, fine. That's fine.
So, I mean, I was more of a, one of those serious types who's like, very serious about career, very serious about, studies and everything. But there was one problem with me during college days, which I remember was, if I like a subject, I'm like super good at it. And if I dislike a subject, it was painful for me to even get the passing marks in those. It was like, I simply, like, I am the person who, when I like something, I do it really, really well. And if I don't like something, it's very hard for me to do even move an inch in that direction. So college was hard in that time, from that point of view, where, there were some of the subjects which were like, I was naturally into, and there were like some of them which, I just did not feel in line with, and did not have enough interest to actually pursue it. So that was my college life pretty much. And so something which I feel was, I did not have enough fun during the college days, being this super serious person. But yeah.
Yeah, but what do you feel about us, like the future generation of yours? Like, we are actually moving more towards the engineering as a fun, because we are still loving what we are doing, and we somehow will pretty much find our chances to do whatever we love. So I think today's engineering, like, I just want to understand from your point of view, like, how do you feel our future approaches will be? Like, how will we approach any engineering problem statements from in the future's point of view? Like, I want your view now.
Okay. So the future is, we don't know. That is one thing, right? We don't know how things are going to change, how things are going to evolve, how technology is going to evolve. We are talking about the GitHub Copilot, which is like I gave it a shot myself. For the audience who do not know, GitHub Copilot is a an AI which can write code for you. So you just put a comment and it will actually auto-populate just as a code for you. So if I simply say I'm doing Node.js programming, and let's just put a type comment saying Node.js HTTP server, and you hit a tab, and it kind of gives you options for with complete code to actually get that working. Or you can put a comment saying random number generator, and it will just do the rest for you. So we are already at the age where and it's pretty good. I mean, I thought, okay, how AI can write code? I was like very, this is one more experiment which is like hyped, and it is not actually going to do the thing properly. But when I actually used it, I'm like, oh my God. I mean, this is kind of making Stack Overflow obsolete. You have Stack Overflow right inside your VS Code, and it is just finishing all the code for you. So things are changing very rapidly, and we don't know how it is going to impact the way we work, the way we do engineering, the way we do software, uh, and in many other fields as well, right? It is going to impact everywhere. So one thing want, I would tell people who are in college and everything is to always remember that the tech is fast changing, and when you start your career, you need to start in a place which gives you as much as exposure to the current technology, at least, if not like the future of the technology, right? If you go into a place where you are doing something ancient, so something which is 15 years old, 20 years old, and if you know that this company is not going to give you exposure and also not going to keep you up with the future changes in technology, then that's a huge risk you are taking as an individual, because you can be made obsolete in no time, the way the tech is evolving. Like, I don't know how long I can actually continue to code, because this today it is assisting the human. Tomorrow it may eliminate the human altogether. Uh, so we don't know. But only thing we can do is make sure that we are up to date with what's happening in the outside world, and get into a place and environment which will allow you to explore these future possibilities. It will allow you to be current in terms of technology and everything.
Yeah, because you have been in a lot of problem statements, because, of course, not just your LinkedIn profile or the resume, which pops up and says that you worked in this technology or that technology, because when people approach, right, any of the problem statement, probably there are even engineers who literally have architected some solutions in such a way that code might be in the early 2000s, but still is being pushed and still is being used sometimes. So I just wanted to understand, like, the old school mindset. Of course, you're not that old to say that you are a 50-year-old fossil in the industry, but I want to understand, like, what was that impactful architecture or the impactful solution architecture that we are actually looking for? Because today's world is like, we are thinking of DevOps, DevSecOps, MLOps. A lot of things are popping up, and we don't know which is the best way to architect a solution. And I'm actually wanted to ask you this question because Anstack is something which is doing pretty cool in terms of not just bringing Stack over to their startup or something, but I would say they're actually doing pretty great in terms of architecture also. So I just wanted to understand, like, how to get an impactful solution or a solution architecture for your problem statement.
So there is no single straightforward answer for this, right? So it's always going to be, you have so many options on the table, and you need to pick what is the best for your use case. For example, personally, I have been an entrepreneur for almost 11, 12 years now. And the way my last startup was architected, and the way I'm architecting things today there's a massive difference, because the technology also has evolved over a period of time, right? So when we did styletag.com, which was my last company, which was a fashion e-commerce company, we raised $11 million and we had a large team and everything. So there we built the stack using Ruby on Rails. It was deployed on AWS EC2, Elastic Load Balancer, RDS, this kind of stack. And Rails notoriously had a history with memory leaks. And every now and then we will get into kind of a problems with, and it was a monolithic system. So there was like one large system which was doing everything. It was doing the cart management, it was doing customer support dashboard, it was doing CRM, it was doing God knows how many things, right? Warehouse management and everything. So one large system, it was a nightmare to manage. Like in the middle of the night, if my phone beeps, I would scare, like every time it used to scare me that it could be that one of the services down, and it could be one of those pager duty alerts where it is saying the server is down or something. So it was so hard back in the day when we had to take responsibility for so many things, keeping the services up and running, and the way the software is written and all of those kind of things. I mean, the way software is written, you are responsible for it even today. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying it's not, but today we have the cloud has evolved so much. We have so many services from the cloud provider, which will allow you to do things out of the box, right? Like back in the day, we actually had to run a RabbitMQ server to manage the queues and everything. Today you have Amazon SQS where you just use it and you pay like 40 cents per million items in the queue. So that is like so cheap. Why would you want to spin up your own server, maintain it, and hire like 3 people to just look after it, right? So things are changing. The way we do things is very different today. And as a student, this can be very overwhelming, because you are seeing there is blockchain, cryptocurrency, all of that happening. Then there is AI, ML, and then there is cloud, serverless, containers, Kubernetes. They're like you're overwhelmed with all these different things. You're like, what am I supposed to do? So one thing I want to tell is nobody is good at everything. Like I don't know how to do containers, right? I don't know how to do Kubernetes. I may have 17 years experience in the industry, but I don't know these things, right? So you need to pick and choose what you are naturally inclined to do, right? So some people feel very naturally inclined to do UX design, for example, right? So you can go into design, you do UX design, UI design, UI development. Today we have React, Vue, Svelte.js, everything. So there is that entire thing which is like for people who are more creatively oriented. In the past, we did not have enough opportunities for people who are creatively oriented, right? Because everything was engineering, medical and stuff like that. Today, we have a huge opportunity for those kind of folks. They can get into UX, and if you are like part creative, part engineering, you can go to UI. You can do UI development, and that industry is like crazy. Like today, everybody is facing scarcity to hire React JS people. There is not enough React JS developers. Even in India, being such a large community for tech, this thing and everything, still we do not have enough people who know React JS. At the same time, colleges are churning out batch after batch after batch engineers, but they are not getting these relevant skills which are of the scales for the industry. They know Java, they know things which are like very common, right? What as a student to stand out, what you can do is understand the industry, go look for these, what these startups are hiring for, what these companies are hiring for, where they see the lack of, supply. You need to get into those kind of technology. At the same time, you should also feel naturally inclined to do those things. So my suggestion for a student would be just do a 1 month experiment, like try being a UX designer, try being a AML professional, try being a cloud architect, cloud professional, try being a backend developer. Just experiment it for a month and you will feel, okay, this is the thing I want to do for the rest of my life, or, at least for the near future. Then go deep into that, especially as a beginner. You don't want to be a generalist, because industry in the beginning, in the time, at the beginning, people mostly look for, other people who are have expertise in one thing, right? So build super expertise in React.js or Node.js or cloud or AML or UX design, whatever you like. Don't, wander around everywhere and not get enough experience anywhere, and you will fail interviews miserably, because the minute they ask much deeper questions, you will not know the answers, right?
Yeah, I feel the same thing because trust me, like I don't know Jenkins. Like probably I attended an interview and they told me, "Do you know Jenkins?" And I told, "No, sir," because the only CI/CD interface that I had was through a GitHub, and I didn't have anything to do with Jenkins till now. Because, and after I started making some case studies about Jenkins, and no dingo on them, they are improving a lot every day. Like they're improving a lot. And I started working and everybody had the same thing. When sometimes when you are in the dev environment, test environment, it works fine, but when you go for the cloud deployment, it starts giving you the red text and you face the most vulnerable situation in your life. Development is filled with challenges. Like probably Chef, Puppet, or something was just a nightmare to the people who never used to know what to be installed or what to be done. But like now everything is like cloud provider is giving us everything. So I just wanted to understand, like, what should be our mindset when we are into the problem statement? Because not every time that you need to agree to your boss every time. I know that because sometimes solutions require a different approach to be solving. Like there is a different solution for everything. So I just wanted to understand, like, what's the developer mindset that you are actually looking for in a new developer like us? Because you own a startup, and running a startup is not such an easy thing. There are a lot of moving parts, a lot of people to answer to. And I just wanted to understand what's the mindset that you really want our generation to look after.
See, the only mindset everybody looks for, not just me, right? Every other startup looks for is ability to learn, because we know that you are a fresher. We know that you do not have industry experience, right? I mean, today somebody may ask you, do you know Jenkins? Tomorrow somebody will ask you, do you know some other CI/CD pipeline? And it is impossible for you to know all the CI/CD, providers, services, and everything. It's impossible. The question is, provided, say, I give you 1 week, can you understand it and can you execute it, right? I will give you a month. Can you go through the documentation? Can you figure it out? So that figuring out, that is the attitude we want. It's not about what you know today. It is probably not relevant also, right? It's about what you can do, what future self you can become. That is very important. So we mostly look at those individuals who show those attitude, right? I want to learn more, I want to know more, and stuff like that. And it's surprisingly very easy to differentiate these folks from the rest, because today you take a batch of engineering students, I see only 2-3 folks who are like this in a batch. I mean, it's very surprising for me. I'm like, why? You have everything. You have internet, you have a laptop, you have, all this information available to you, and what you chose to do with it, right? So most of the people who come out of the college only know what is taught in the college. They just don't explore anything else apart from it. That is really, really concerning. I mean, at least for me, relating to my college days, where there was no computer and internet used to cost 30 rupees per hour in the cyber cafe. And I used to go to those cyber cafes and study how much ever I can in 30 minutes and save up money every week for that exercise and learn new things. Today you have everything in your fingertips, and you're not taking advantage of it.
Thanks to
So that
Geo.
is, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's provided to you. How you use it is up to you, right? So technology is there, but what you make out of it is important.
Yeah, because sometimes I also feel the same thing, because we started a community initiative like a very long time. 80 people approached me, 8 survived at the end, and we are writing paper now. That's it. This is what is happening. I told them, okay, read some papers, get some knowledge, because not writing research paper is not a cakewalk to every person. Like I too faced it, because today if I don't just browse archive.org, I get mad about it. Like, why didn't I do that today? But like, it was not the same situation exactly 4 years before. Like, I was like, what is happening in this world? Like every day 50, 60 paper pops up in archive, and can I study everything? Then I figured out some Twitter and all these things. So figuring out and all these. So today I just wanted to understand, like, how much do you think is an influence of technology in our life? Because you're working in tech from a very long time. So how much is the influence of tech? Because we need to understand, an accountant wants to be a developer today. An accountant wants to do an auto ML, like it's no code, low code platform today, though. And like, there are other things that we need to figure out somehow. Power BI is actually an amazing tool. Many people have really paved their way to technology through Power BI. And I just want to understand, like, what is this funda behind this all new stack that we are talking today, and all the things that pops up? And like, do you really think so that every person will know exactly after the project gets completed what's that all about? Today's technology funda that's happening today.
So it is again, something which is changing and evolving. So we see tech, tech kind of invading every other industry, right? So it is kind of going everywhere, and it is today, accountants, like you mentioned, needs to know some tools. They need to know, understand a lot of things. The lot of government processes are becoming online, like GST filing, income tax filing, that this everything is online. And as an accountant, you are supposed to know all these processes and everything. So the computer skills, what used to be for computer grads, I mean, it's no longer the case. Everybody has to know it. Everybody's got to know it. Uh, like our moms and dads, you can look at them, how they have changed the way they use banking, for example. Like I remember my dad going to bank every month with his passbook and getting an entry done and all that. Today he opens a phone pay and just goes through the transactions, like he clicks on some this thing and checks his balance. So I don't remember in last 3 years, 2+ years whatsoever, my dad going to bank. Especially after pandemic, it has changed a lot of things permanently. Now they've gotten used to not going to the bank, and they're like, okay, this is better. Why don't we just continue being this way? So the tech is kind of everywhere, and there is a surge of low code, no code platforms. People can build their own tools. There is one which is of my friends called Clapia. It's being heavily used by so many different companies where there is one guy who figures it out, and that person is making dashboards and apps and everything using the platform, and the whole company is very happy using it. And also they are now understanding the advantages of using tech, because there is lower leakage, or things lost in translations, things lost in transition. This guy said that guy said this, and finally you don't have enough data. You don't know what happened with 5 items which was supposed to come to warehouse, things like that, right? So since you digitalizing these processes, it is avoiding a lot of leakages. It is improving efficiency in a lot of industries. They are also trying to understand, okay, there's so much benefits to being tech savvy and adopting digital platforms and SaaS platforms to do their job. And SaaS is like gone crazy in the last 5 years. Everybody, it's so cheap to use. You pay 500 rupees or 1,000 rupees per month for a suite of Zoho or Freshworks, You don't need to develop anything. You don't need to have a tech team. You can, and they will help you, onboard, train your people and so on. So it's invading everywhere. But as a software professional, it is making our life more and more complex at the same time, because now you need to justify being a software engineer. um, Before it used to be QA, there is a tester, there is a developer, there is a person who is taking care of infrastructure, IT, and all of that. So all of these kind of roles existed, but everybody is now consolidating all of this into one person, right? So now this single person, now testing jobs are going away, because now they are saying they want QA. Developers have to write unit tests, developer needs to do integration testing and everything, right? The scope for testing and QA as a separate role is diminishing. And same with DevOps, right? More and more companies are going cloud native and using readily available solutions from AWS, GCP, and Azure. And it needs less and less number of people to manage the stuff. And you don't cloud. You want developers to manage the cloud as well, right? So it's like everything is coming as a developer responsibility. Like, you need to know how to manage cloud. We are not going to give you one more guy, one more person to just do that. You need to figure it out on your own. You need to do testing. You need to write test cases along with your code. You need to write integration test cases along with your code. We are not going to give you one dedicated tester who is going to haunt you. So that there also, it's kind of consolidation is happening, and more companies want to hire these full stack people, because this person can step into many roles and do many things. But it is increasingly becoming hard for the engineer, because the expectation is kind of expanding.
Yeah, when you told about this Ruby on Rails, right? It's still in HackerOne's #1 list for bug bounty hunters. Like, still there is a chance for all the bug bounty hunters to look at their old colloquial techniques to debug something on a website or else on a service, things like that. So I just wanted to understand, because there is a lot of security issues that are popping up, because everybody has an access to the bandwidth, and everybody somehow has, even if you don't know database, somehow you're a part of this entire infrastructure which uses database on the other side, which uses microservices on the other side, and things like that. So I just wanted to understand this complexity of building more secure architecture for any product. Like, I just wanted to understand, like, there's a lot of things which are evolving over the course of time, but DevSecOps has already occurred. And actually, John Willis is actually writing a book by 2022, 2023. I don't know, but he's just, he was always on this DevSecOps these days, and a lot of other people are popping up. So, what do you think about the security of these kind of scaled systems that we are talking about? Because deployment at a scale is a different issue. You have seen monolithic, you have seen serverless world today. So I just wanted to understand the difference between that world and the serverless that we are talking today, and also the security aspects that I want to touch upon, because a lot of times we forget this is one of the things that we might be architecting towards, but sometimes trade-offs happen. You have to let down something to just get some things up. So what's your view on the security aspects today?
So security, like you said, the tools are getting more and more mature. At the same time, the ease of more and more people are evolving in terms of new ways to attack, new sophisticated ways to get into the systems and so on, right? So, but in today's world, like if you are with any major public cloud providers, right? So AWS or GCP or Azure, there is something called as the responsibility model, right? So it defines what is that you are responsible for and what is that the cloud provider is responsible for. And it changes depending on the service of, depending on which service you use. For example, EC2, if you take, so the cloud provider is responsible for making sure this instance is available to you, and the OS it is running is secure and all of that, right? But if you open some crazy number of ports in the EC2 using the network layer and allow some weird traffics to come in and all of that, that is your responsibility. Cloud provider will say that is your responsibility. And what you run in that instance is also your responsibility. If you end up running some malicious script inside that without your knowledge or with your knowledge, that is your responsibility. So it's very important to understand the responsibility model with the services you are going to use. So in most serverless components we use, the many security aspects is covered by the cloud provider, right? So for example, if you look at RDS, right? RDS, it is some amount of responsibility is with the cloud AWS with respect to what ports are open, and the MySQL which is running inside is patched to the latest security updates, and the stuff like that is managed by AWS. At the same time, it is your responsibility that you don't put RDS instance in a public subnet and make the database accessible publicly in the network, right? So this is kind of a shared responsibility, but today we have frameworks like AWS well-architected framework, which one can go through and understand the security aspects. And there are a lot of articles and content available with respect to best practices you can follow. Pretty much, if you just go through well-architected framework and security pillar and follow the guidelines, do not have MFA enabled in the root account, define your blast radius, have separate accounts for plot, separate account for dev, separate account for staging, so that in case if somebody gets access to say dev or staging, the blast radius is limited to only that account, right? Your plot is not affected by that. So there are a lot of concepts which are easy to digest. There are a lot of tooling available today. We have monitoring tools. We have, policy checking tools. All of these which can alert you if it finds a policy which is not supposed to be given to somebody and stuff like that. So while there is increased amount of set of tools which are available, at the same time there is increased risk. But it's about, most of the time, you just need to put the right foundation when you build up a new stack. That's all. Most of the common attacks, common misconfigurations can be avoided if you just follow the best practices from the beginning.
Yeah, earlier when you look at some of the developers, they used to say 0-day vulnerability. There was nothing which was popping up from the database and nothing is happening and the architecture is down. And like today, you need not have to manage it at all. There is hybrid cloud and there are different locations involved in the region itself where it's always there for you to make your app up and running at every given point, and all these things are coming up. So when we think of this hybrid cloud and all these, and when we think of the world which is going crazy behind all that, do you really think so? Like hybrid cloud, did it make any change? Because everybody is moving more towards the infrastructure as code, and now almost like it's not like serverless is gone. Serverless is part of an IaaC where you're just typing in as a code and you're just architecting that solution as a code, things like that. So what do you think is the future impact of all these things that are popping up today? I know you're not an IoT person, but IoT was never in my profile also. So it was never my piece of cake where I always thought about. But when I saw hybrid cloud and edge devices making lot and lot of data set today, like your census data has been collected and so on. So I just wanted to understand. Oh, sorry. And you also told about RabbitMQ, right? Kafka has been used in Audi for collecting the data on their database, and a lot of things are popping up. So I just wanted to understand, like, how is the future of development process going to look like? Are we just going to be like on premises, hybrid cloud, and things like that? Also, what is it all about?
So it's very hard to say because every enterprise is different, and the way they take the call is very different. The what is important to them is also very different. We have today banks like HSBC embracing serverless, right? At the same time, some other enterprise folks saying, serverless is not something for us, and it's not real, right? Because there's nothing wrong with serverless per se, but the way you look at it could be the things which are most important to you may not make sure the serverless fits into that, right? For example, I know a startup which is doing containers, right? So I asked them, why didn't you do serverless? Because they started a couple of years ago, so serverless was there, Lambda was there, and everything. Why did you do containers? Then they said that the industry which they are addressing, it requires that their solution needs to be able to run on bare metal as well as multiple clouds. It depends on the client. It depends on the customer. The customer may want to run it in the bare metals. They may want to run it in Azure. They may want to run it in GCP or AWS. We don't know. So in his particular use case, it was important for him to design the whole their product in such a way that it is deployable anywhere. So they went with Kubernetes and container approach because they can run it anywhere they want. But if you are building a product company, for example, and you want to develop a B2C product, B2B product, SaaS product, whatever, then it kind of sounds foolish for you to invest so much in technology, because you would rather be focusing on what your business case is, what your users would want, and put your more and more focus and energy into the product than on the underlying technology. Right? Say you are building, assume you are building a product to address college students, for example. Say you want to get them an internship, and you are building a platform to get them a very cool internship, right? Now, if you start focusing on, I want to run it on multi-cloud, hybrid cloud, bare metal, and I will learn Kubernetes, I will do some this, that. You will take a couple of years just to understand all of these, right? So your product will never be out. By then you will kind of give up. Oh God, this is too late to do this idea anymore, and you just give up. Instead, you can focus on what is already available from AWS or GCP. Firebase is amazing. You can just get started, get things moving like that, and build your product, put the product out, and get people to use it. That is more important than worrying about what technologies it is running under the hood.
Yeah, because sometimes not just thinking of architecture, leave architecture, that comes in a very later stage of our career. But when we are a student, we fiddle around with a lot of things, and we have a reach to a lot of things, and we forget that let's keep it simple as hell. Don't make it more complex, because your problem statement is not $1 billion idea now, but probably it's going to be that. But to generate some revenue, you need to start, right? So last question from my side, the business aspects of being in the world of technology, right? Not everybody has this niche. Probably I've interviewed a person who is Sriraman Tyagarajan, who is nowhere related to the tech. His bachelor's was in commerce. Bachelor's was in commerce. And then he went on and did his MBA, and he's now a CEO of a tech company which is building an amazing product, which is Agraya Technologies, which works on voice tech and things like that. And I was so amazed, because everybody has their niche and everybody has their market strategy. But sometimes when we are very good in technology, we forget to be good with money. It's not like indulging the Warren Buffett aspect into the machine. No, this Bill Gates. I'm not saying something like that, but you need to understand the money aspects of it also. Like, you can't sit in front of Ashwath Damodaran's lectures and ask for the dark side of valuation completely. That's stupidity. Because I'm a person who is more into tech, so I just wanted to understand, like, how did you understand this strategy, business, and all these aspects? Because when you are in startup, you need some money, right? So I just wanted to understand, what is this all about technologists coming back to understand this business aspects. Probably,
So, I
I
mean,
just wanted to add, probably if we are in the future stages of our career where we just wanted to understand what is this money minting process all about, just want some insights from you.
yeah. So, like you said, I was exactly like that. I was very bad in terms of money. Like I was always after what I like to do, and it is important actually. It is more important than the money. That you make sure that you don't prioritize money and go after money only. You prioritize what comes naturally to you and what is that you are passionate about doing. It's not always about money. And when you are passionate about doing something, you automatically become the expert in that, right? And you automatically kind of charge a premium for doing that service to others, right? Whatever it could be. You could be an artist, you could be a musician, you could be, it does not matter actually whether it does not just apply to tech, right? Whatever it is. So it is important. Like I see this especially in the fresher mentality that people simply put a binary decision structure. Like if you know ML, you will earn more. Not true, right? If you know this, you will get that. It's not true. So people who are not good at ML, beating themselves to the core to learn ML and be good at it, which will not happen, and they will not even get a normal job, right? So what if your inclination is towards UX? You go do it and become the crazy expert in that. And automatically you will get as much or more than some other person who is doing ML. So there is, as long as you are an expert, every job today in the tech pays you well, whether you are an UX person or an ML person or a UI developer or a backend developer or a cloud professional. All these jobs pay you kind of equally. There is no, this job pays you a lot more than this job. I mean, it takes that you need to be an expert at it. If you are a mediocre developer, if you are a mediocre IAML person, if you are a mediocre UX person, you are going to get paid less, irrespective of which industry you chose. So it's important that you first find out where you belong. That is very important. Once you figure out where you belong as a person, what's your thought process? Are you more of a design person? Are you more of a backend person or front-end person? I think that is very important. Not figuring this out will cost you money for sure. Lots and lots of money, because you make the wrong choice very early in your career. You end up building the career in a wrong path. 4 years after you realize you are in the wrong path, but it's too late to course correct your path. Because say after 4 years, being a ML professional, you suddenly want to do UX. Nobody is going to give you a job because you have experience which is irrelevant. You need to start as a fresher, as a UX person, but you've already gotten used to earning some income and you cannot make sacrifices there. You're probably getting married soon, whatever. So the mistakes you make early in your career are going to with that butterfly effect, right? It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger over a period of time, and you go too far and you cannot course correct. So that is very expensive, to not being able to course correct, and you are going to deny yourself a lot of growth, a lot of money, a lot of success by making the wrong decision earlier in your career. So don't worry about, don't listen to people who say if this then that. That never happens. Like if you just go to ML, you are going to make money. That's not happening, right? You need to be good at it. So you first make sure whatever you do, you are good at it.
You sound like an Uncle Bob who always says about this solid principles. What did we do by inventing Objective C? That's what I always feel about, we have always figured out some or the other way to improvise something, but probably we had a lot of trade-offs. I think what you gave was a very valid point, where everybody needs to keep something as a niche in your side and then start working on it, and that becomes an sort of a disease to you, like you feel like if I don't suffer from that, I'll not be happy forever. So kind of a thing like that. I think you gave a lot of insights. Thank you so much for such bright insights for all our youngsters who are really jacked up for getting in this industry and things like that. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Vishwas, for having me here.